I mean, Campbell, the truth is China is a very complex place and kind of comparable to Europe. So just like you can't just say you know how to do business in Europe because you're based in the UK, the same thing. So for the Chinese themselves, if they're in Shanghai, they would have a serious problem doing business in Beijing or in Guangzhou or anywhere else. And often they try to avoid it if they can. Now, a lot of times with the second tier cities where most of the really fast growth is now, maybe not so much in the kind of tech sector, but I think that will come. And there are already examples. Hangzhou very much goes on technology and has a lot of startup kind of movements there. But ultimately, people who really want to get ahead from China try to get into universities in the bigger cities, in Shanghai or Beijing, because getting into universities and being a student there means that they can get the hook or get the identity card and actually then go and stay and look for a job there. But they would obviously have family connections back in their city, and oftentimes that's how you can get that network there. Same with Chinese who are studying in the UK or the US, and often will not be from the bigger cities, it will be from any other cities, and tend to have well-connected parents and a network. So it's another way. Jack?
Christine, having lived in China for a few years and launched a few businesses, what I noticed about the internet space was you don't ask for permission because it's going to be rejected. What you have to do is you launch and then you ask for forgiveness.
Right, you just do it. Yeah,
that's the only way to do it. That's the only way to do it.
Because if you go and ask and it's something they've never come across, the tendency is to say no first, or we'll get back to you but say no first, or you give them an opportunity.
But isn't that also because nobody actually wants to take a decision that actually
Yeah.
stems from many years ago?
Yeah.
Where nobody wants to be the guy responsible for signing it.
Well, if it's something new that they've been, it's like, oh my gosh, this technology, we've never dealt with it before. Okay, no for a while, and let me just figure it out.
Most officials have no idea what people who are on the internet actually are talking about. So a lot of I think all the laws governing e-commerce and advertising online, etc., were all retroactive. After they started, like somebody complained to them, so the newspapers might come and complain, and then they'll say, oh, we have to make a law. Or people complaining about credit cards and everything, and they're like, oh yeah, we have to kind of sort it out somehow. And that's how it's evolving. So entrepreneurs have to keep pushing for the government to make reasonable laws. And the good thing about China is that they can, if they decide to change the law, they don't have to wait for an election or change the constitution, they just change it. Anything else? Ideas, questions, comments?
Just following up on your last comment. Are there various different bodies in China responsible for e-commerce? Because one thing you find in other areas is that one body has a regulation, and then everybody lobbies against it and they change it. But then 6 months later, or 12 months later, or 18 months later, another body says, well, we want to have more power, we want to do power, so we're going to have a regulation to stop continuing all those things.
Yeah, at the moment there is a body governing e-commerce in terms of having a license to conduct e-commerce online. But there are also oftentimes straightforward, commercial licenses you have to get that are at local level, provincial level, and then e-commerce on the national level. So you still have to have the bank account and the ability to have a gateway and all of that. So there are different authorities we need to speak with. There was somebody at the back.
My name is Josh.
Josh.
Yeah, I have a question. You mentioned that actually in China people don't use Facebook, they're local side. And if they say you have successful models overseas and you want to enter the market, is it easier to just find a company and then maybe license it much to them, for them to actually customize that, localize that, instead of you run it yourself?
Yeah, so the venture advisory firm that I'm working with and a few private equity folks are, because they've learned from the former model, it didn't work if you're trying to be eBay going in as eBay and creating a whole team from scratch, because you've got the local company, and there's reason for that. You've got to report to headquarters. It takes 2 weeks when it takes them 15 minutes to make a decision, so you're at a disadvantage. So the interesting thing about that is I'm excited because we're gonna start this. It's a cross-border facilitation. So there's some ideas, and I can't say what, but there's some ideas that in Silicon Valley that are these startups where in the mobile sector, it looks like they would do well in China if they were partnered, but if they did a JV or partnered with folks that we already know on the ground there, and they did this hybrid. And it's actually lower risk too, because again, if you take a business model and you're willing to form a joint venture or a separate group, you let that
internet users in China don't behave like internet users in the West.
Right.
Sam Fleming of CIC is doing some interesting, white papers and research on that. So you have to obviously study that before you decide if a successful model in Europe or in the USA would have a chance of working there. And I think listening to local entrepreneurs and local people over there that understand it would be the best way to try and maybe adjust it or adapt it, if at all it can work there.
Yeah. What's an interesting model I'll bring up is we had him speak, but a friend of mine, William Balbine, he's VC for SoftBank China and India Holdings. Fascinating what he's doing, because there's also situations on the ground in Shanghai where you can't call the firm, like usually you could say, is that a foreign internet company or is that a Chinese? Now you've got this hybrid model. We've got expats who've been living there for 10 years, working with Chinese counterparts, and it's an international team, but very localized because they think Chinese.
Yeah.
And it's amazing because he's sitting there talking about to the Silicon Valley folks who are used to burning all this money. He's like, yeah, we've got one of the top, language learning sites. It's called iTalkI. It's like a social network site that they launched from Shanghai, and it is for language learning, where it's kind of like a social network for teaching each other how to speak Chinese and other languages too. Their burn rate for 13 employees, including foreigners who are used to living on the ground there, is $13,000 a month. I mean, and when we say that, the Silicon Valley, it blew their mind away. And there is an example of a company like that is always going to be at an advantage compared to this all U.S.-based model just transplanting themselves on the ground there. It's like a hybrid model, and that only comes from being on the ground and kind of getting to know people and formulas.
Somebody shy wants to ask about green issues.
Oh.
Okay. So I won't mention who, but basically, yeah, that's the benefit of having Twitter.
So I'm not sure what about green issues.
Oh, what's the question?
Yeah, it's a question about green issues.
That's all I know.
Okay.
But did you come across green startups that are using technology, and are they able to navigate this, the Chinese internet police, etc. Because they're green? I mean, do they have some leeway?
No, you know what, and if you guys in the audience
there are seats in front. If you'd like to come and sit down, there are some more seats here.
So again, just speaking from general, because I'm not in clean tech, but I do know people who are. What's interesting is the takeaway from that is if you align yourself, knowing that China is a centrist government, right? If you align yourself with where the sector is going, or where the Chinese government's, what do you call that, priorities are, then you're going to do really well. So whereas it used to be an uphill battle trying to do sustainability when it wasn't popular with the Chinese government, all of a sudden now there's like a lot of things in place that make it really easy. But let's be really honest here, and I always tell people, it's not because they love foreigners and they want foreigners to come in and reap the benefits of green tech. They want your IP and they want your technology and they want your know-how, because this is what they need to do for their country. And so if you know that there's an arrangement like that, you should take advantage of it when the window is open. And right now, there's an opportunity. But that's such a wide topic.